It started with the sound of bells. Not church bells or wind chimes, but tiny metallic jingles, like someone shaking a handful of keys near your ear. At first, I thought it was in my head, a side effect of stress or maybe just the echo of city noise bouncing off my apartment walls. But then it kept happening. Every night at the same time, 3:17 a.m. I'd wake up, heart racing, and hear that faint jingling coming from my living room. My name is Marcus. I live alone, and I hadn't invited anyone over in weeks. The first night, I brushed it off as nothing. The second, I turned on all the lights and checked every corner of my place. The third night, I didn't sleep at all. And by the fourth, I knew something was inside my apartment. I work as a freelance editor. Deadlines don't scare me. Sleep deprivation doesn't shake me. But this was different. The bells were always followed by something colder. Not the temperature, though the air did feel heavier, but something more primal. A sensation, like being watched by something that didn't need eyes. I tried telling my sister about it. She joked that I was working too much and needed a break. "Maybe it's your cat," she said. I reminded her I've never owned one. I don't even like cats. On the fifth night, I decided to record everything. I set up my webcam, left a voice recorder running, and waited. I stayed on the couch with the lights off, pretending to sleep. At exactly 3:17 a.m., the bells rang again. This time, I didn't move. I kept my breathing slow and shallow, even as I felt the hairs on my arms stand up. Something was near me. I could hear the faint creak of the wooden floor, like footsteps from something light but deliberate. My fingers itched to reach for the lamp, but I knew whatever it was would vanish the second the light came on. When the sun rose, I checked the footage. The camera had recorded 3 hours of stillness until 3:17. Then static. Just 2 minutes of complete distortion, like something had passed in front of the lens but was too fast or too wrong to be captured properly. But the voice recorder, it picked up something else entirely. My name. Whispered. Soft, close, and unmistakably not my own voice. Marcus. It breathed, as if it had always known me. I played it back over and over again, hoping to hear some clue, some rational sound that I could interpret differently. But it was always the same, my name, followed by the jingling bells. I called a friend of mine who deals with unusual things. He used to collect antique instruments and once claimed to own a violin that played by itself. I didn't believe half the stories he told, but right now I was desperate. He came over the next evening with a strange object in his hand, a long silver chain with tiny bells attached to the end. "You hear these?" he asked, shaking them lightly. The sound was identical to what I'd heard at 3:17. My blood froze. "Where did you get that?" I asked. He smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. "Same place your visitor did." Before I could respond, he placed the bells on my coffee table and lit a black candle. "They're called threshold bells," he said, "used in the old days to guide spirits through doors, so they don't get lost, or worse, get stuck halfway." I wanted to laugh. I wanted to say it was ridiculous. But then he looked at me with real fear in his eyes. "You didn't open any boxes recently, did you?" I thought about it. Last week, I'd ordered a book from an obscure online seller, a collection of folklore tales from Eastern Europe. It arrived wrapped in brown paper, sealed with twine, and inside was a single bell attached to the ribbon. I had tossed it aside, thinking it was just decoration. "Yeah," I said slowly. "Why?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he picked up the bell from the table, held it to his ear, and whispered something I couldn't make out. Then he dropped it like it had burned him. "It's marked," he said. That bell wasn't just a trinket, it was an invitation. I didn't understand what he meant at the time, but it became clear later that night. The bells rang again at 3:17. Only this time, I wasn't asleep. I stood in the middle of the living room, the black candles still burning from earlier, and waited. The air changed. It got thicker, like the atmosphere was pressing inward. And then I saw her. She was standing in the corner near the bookshelf where the shadows were thickest. I couldn't see her face, only the outline of a figure. Tall, slender, and draped in something that moved without wind. Her head tilted slightly, and the bells jingled with the motion. She didn't walk. She glided. When she reached the center of the room, the candle flickered violently, and for a split second her face came into focus. It wasn't horrible, it wasn't grotesque. That would have been easier to handle. Instead, it was familiar. Terribly familiar. It was the face of my mother, but she died over 25 years ago. And the thing looking back at me from that pale face, it wasn't her. I staggered backward, nearly knocking over the candle as her face flickered in and out of reality. It wasn't just that she looked like my mother. It was that she moved like her, tilted her head the same way she used to when she was about to scold me for something trivial, like staying up too late or skipping dinner. But there was nothing human behind those eyes. No warmth, just emptiness. A hollow stare stretched across a borrowed memory. I wanted to speak, to say her name, but the air inside my throat felt like glue. She raised one finger to her lips in silence, and the bells on her wrist trembled again. Then she was gone. No flash, no scream, just silence. I didn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the untouched black candle, trying to make sense of what had just happened. My friend had already left hours earlier, saying the bells needed to stay out of the house. "If you hear them again," he warned, "you've already let her in." And now I was wondering, had I? Was it when I opened that box? Or did it begin before that? Maybe the bell wasn't the start. Maybe it was the seal. The next day, I went digging. Through emails, receipts, old delivery boxes. I found the seller's information, barely. A strange string of numbers, and a return address in a town I'd never heard of, hundreds of miles away. I searched the location on every map I could, but nothing came up. No reviews, no contact page, not even a proper store name. Just a phrase at the bottom of the email receipt that hadn't caught my eye before. "We don't send what you want. We send what wants you." That night I left the apartment. Or at least I tried to. The elevator didn't respond. The stairwell was dark. Far darker than it had any right to be. I walked down one flight, then another, and suddenly found myself back on my own floor. Apartment 6C. My door, only it was wide open now, and inside I could hear someone whispering. I pressed my back to the cold wall and tried to focus. The voice wasn't mine, and it wasn't my friend's. It was her, whispering something over and over, in a tone almost sweet, almost loving. "You brought me here. You brought me home." I should have run, should have called for help. But instead, I stepped inside, and every light in the apartment turned on by itself. In the mirror by the hallway, her reflection was waiting. Still wearing my mother's face, only now the edges were wrong, like someone had painted her onto the glass and let it drip. I screamed, not from fear, but from the realization that her mouth wasn't moving. The whispering was coming from behind me. I turned. Nothing. And then I looked back at the mirror. She was smiling. I smashed the glass with the nearest object I could find. Shards flew everywhere, and for a moment I thought I was free, But when I blinked, she was still there, smiling through the fractured pieces. The bells started ringing again, this time louder and closer. They weren't coming from the mirror. They were coming from my room. I ran in, heart pounding, but there was nothing on the bed, just my phone, somehow returned, and a note. It wasn't written in pen, it looked scorched into the paper, the words burned in. You saw her face, now she wears yours. I looked into the hallway mirror, now cracked like spider webs. My reflection blinked, but I didn't. That's when I knew she wasn't trying to scare me, she was trying to replace me. And every night since then, I felt something shifting. I walk past reflective surfaces and see myself lagging behind. My laughter sounds off. People at the coffee shop look at me just a second too long. And when I video called my sister to tell her everything, she said, "You're acting strange lately. You're not blinking right." I haven't seen my friend again. His number doesn't connect. His apartment? Empty. No trace he ever lived there. And that book I bought? It's gone. No record of it on my credit card, no email history, no packaging left behind. All that remains is the bell. It rings sometimes when I'm asleep. When I dream, I hear her voice whispering a lullaby I don't recognize, but my bones seem to remember. And now, every time I look in the mirror, I see a little less of myself. She's taking me slowly. One smile, one blink, one memory at a time. I stopped using mirrors after that. Covered every one of them in the apartment. Bathroom, hallway, even the reflection in the microwave door. It didn't matter. Her presence had already burrowed itself into everything. I could feel her in the static between songs, in the gaps of conversation where silence stretched too long, in the way my own thoughts began to echo, not like memory, but mimicry, like something was listening from the inside and rehearsing how to sound like me. One night, I woke up on the floor. I don't remember falling asleep, I don't remember lying down, but there I was, face pressed against the cold tile, with that same smell of scorched paper in the air. I stood up slowly, only to see a sentence written in fog across the living room window. "You're almost ready." What did that mean? Ready for what? I thought I could beat her. That if I understood her origin, maybe I could undo the mistake. I started researching ancient beliefs, rituals, old world folk tales involving bells, mirrors, and identity theft. Not the kind with credit cards, but with faces, with souls. The deeper I dug, the more obscure it became. Some cultures believed bells called the dead. Others said they trapped wandering spirits. But one thing was consistent. Mirrors were never meant to hold you for long. If you stared too long, something else stared back. And if it liked what it saw, it didn't leave empty-handed. My body started betraying me. I forgot how to write my own name. I'd grab a fork instead of a toothbrush. One night, I found myself standing outside, barefoot, in the snow, holding the original bell from the package. I didn't remember walking out there, and when I looked back at my window, I could see someone watching me from inside. I wasn't safe anywhere anymore, not even inside my own skin. That's when I made the decision to document everything, to tell my story here in this recording. Because if I disappear, if you hear my name and it's not attached to this voice, you need to know. She's taken my place, and she's still out there, wearing my face, saying my words, living my life. Maybe you've already met her. Maybe she's commented on your post, laughed at your joke, sent you a message late at night. So I need you to listen closely. If anyone ever tells you they're trying something new out of nowhere, if they suddenly stop fearing the things that once terrified them, if their smile is just a little too wide and never reaches their eyes, run and never look back. Because once they pick you, once they notice you, it doesn't end. They don't want to kill you. That would be too simple. They want to be you. And the scariest part, they'll probably do it better than you ever did. If this story haunted you even just a little, let me tell you something from the bottom of my soul. You're not alone. Darkness thrives in silence, but when we share our fear, we take away its power. So, please, take a moment and tell us. Have you ever felt like something else was wearing your life like a coat? Drop your story in the comments. Let this be a place where the shadows don't win. And if you're new here, I invite you to stay, not just to watch, but to be part of something. Click that subscribe button not out of obligation, but because you feel it too. That whisper in the dark, that chill behind your spine, that sense that something's not quite right. Join this strange little corner where fear finds form and stories come alive. Let's get lost together and maybe, just maybe, find a little bit of truth hiding in the terror. And hey, if this video resonated with you, tell me what stuck with you the most. What image won't leave your mind? What part made your heart slow down just a little? We're listening. All of us. Even the ones who don't blink.